like I said, it's the end of 2025, which also means it's the beginning of 2026. And this is a fantastic time to think about what you want to create for yourself in 2026 and do some goal setting.
So our first step is to reflect on 2025. So before we can look ahead, we have to stop and take a look back.
So if you have goals without a vision, those basically just end up being tasks.
Your word could be growth if you want to expand professionally, balance if you're seeking harmony between work and life, or courage if you're ready to take bold steps.
The most powerful and the most likely you are to achieve your goals is if you, one, clearly identify them and write them down, and two, share them with somebody so you can have accountability. Hello, welcome back.
Hello, so good to see you as always.
Great to see you too, partner. Welcome back, everyone, to Living Richly with Curo. It is officially like the last couple of days of 2025, and we are so excited to be back here with you. So my name is Ann McCabe. I am the CEO and a partner here at Curo Private Wealth, and I'm joined, as always, by my lovely partner, Atricia.
Hello, I am Atricia Roberts, COO and a partner here at Curo. Thanks for coming back to check us out, to our OG listeners. And if you're new, thanks for checking us out for the first time.
Yeah, we love and appreciate you all. If you are new to the podcast, we are here to educate, inspire, empower you on your financial journeys. And like I said, it's the end of 2025, which also means it's the beginning of 2026. And this is a fantastic time to think about what you want to create for yourself in 2026 and do some goal setting. So whether you have financial goals or health goals or personal goals or career goals, we are going to walk you through a 5-step process for goal setting in 2026. So I'm super excited to share this easily implementable process with you so you can start your year strong and continue that momentum throughout the year.
Yeah, very excited about turning the page on the calendar. 2025 has been a doozy.
I know, my goodness. Yeah, it's exciting. I love like the freshness of a new year. And yeah, as you said, turning the page on the calendar and just like a nice clean start and just opportunity and potential in the air.
Yeah. And then, all the goofy stuff like writing the wrong year for the first, 8 days.
Exactly. Which we all do for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's required.
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty. So we'll jump right in and we'll start with our first step. So our first step is to reflect on 2025. So before we can look ahead, we have to stop and take a look back. So you want to think, what worked well this year? What am I super proud of? What challenges did I face? Reflections gives you insight into your patterns and your priorities. So you also want to think about what you may want to leave behind, right? And so this step will set the foundation for intentional goals for the new year.
Yeah, very important. I think sometimes people like jump right to thinking about goals for the next year and forget to kind of like start by reflecting on the existing year. So I think that step is super important. Okay, step number 2, define your vision. So if you have goals without a vision, those basically just end up being tasks. So we want you to imagine your ideal life in 2026. So if you get to December of 2026, what do you want to have happened throughout the year? How do you want to show up? What does success look like? It is super important to define what success looks like for you personally, professionally, financially. And ideally, you'll write this down in pretty vivid detail so you really can internalize it and it really becomes your vision. This will help guide every decision that you make in 2026.
Yeah, and I think that is such a fantastic step. If you've been a longtime listener of the pod, I talk a lot about vision boards, right? Having an actual physical manifestation of the things you want to see. So whether that's, on a poster or on a Pinterest board, I think having a clear vision is super important, which also leads us to our next step. Step 3, which is to set SMART goals, SMART goals. And SMART stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound, right? So instead of just saying, I want to save more money in 2026, you want to rethink that goal as saying, I will save $2,000 a month by December 2026. So it's very specific, very measurable, and then time bound. You give yourself those restraints. This is also where you can set stretch goals for yourself, right? The things that seem too big when you just say them in, very vague general terms. If you make them specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound, then it's more likely that you'll actually achieve the goal for the year.
Yeah, I've heard of these called BHAGs, big, hairy,
Mm-hmm.
audacious goals. So Atricia and I have a BHAG, which is get to
Oh, yeah.
$1 billion,
$1 billion
billion
with
with
a
a
B.
B in asset under management. So that's our
Yeah.
BHAG.
Yeah.
All right, step 4, we want to break it down because big goals can feel overwhelming. So that BHAG we just mentioned, or even like a goal that you're setting for an entire year. So what we want to do after we have set the SMART goals is we want to break them down into little bite-sized pieces that are more easily measurable and easily implemented. So we want to break them down into quarterly or maybe even monthly steps or milestones. So we're going to give you 2 very specific examples here to share what we're talking about. So back to the goal that Atricia just mentioned. If you want to save $12,000 by December 2026, or actually this would only be $1,000 a month, but let's say you want to save $1,000 a month or $12,000 by December 2026. Here's how you could break this down into quarters. First quarter, you can set up an automatic transfer. We always talk about the importance of automating because it's out of sight, out of mind. You'll just get it done. So set up an automatic transfer of $1,000 a month into a savings account. Now, the second quarter, you can review your expenses and cut any sort of unnecessary subscriptions to free up $250 a month would be the goal. It doesn't have to be 250. The point is you try to set an actual number that's measurable for this particular part of the goal that we're breaking down. Now, in the third quarter, we're going to explore some possible side hustles or freelance work that can generate an additional $500 in income a month that we can put towards savings. And then in the fourth quarter, we're going to reassess and adjust our automatic transfer if we're not on track for that $12,000 goal by the end of 2026.
Yeah, a quarterly plan can be really successful. So we'll offer another example. And let's say your goal is to earn a professional certification by December 2026. So here's how we would break it down quarterly. In the first quarter, you would research certification options and enroll in the program. In the second quarter, you will complete the foundational modules and schedule study blocks weekly. We love a time block here at the Curo Pod. In the third quarter, you'll take practice exams and attend workshops or webinars. And then in Q4, you'll actually sit for the exam and update your resume and LinkedIn profile. And I absolutely love the idea of being able to make that update because it feels like an official checking of the box.
Yeah, exactly. I remember back when I was studying for the CFP, this was, gosh, like years ago.
Mm-hmm.
My girlfriend and I were studying together, and we were in a conference room somewhere studying, and we actually wrote our names on the whiteboard and put CFP with the copyright next to our names, and we took a picture of it. And it like felt so good, even though we hadn't even sat for or passed the test yet. It felt so good to like put those letters behind our names. And I remember just feeling the feeling of how it was gonna be when we passed the exam. So that kind of goes back to vision, but also like thinking about how great it's going to be once you can update your resume and update your LinkedIn profile with this goal. So really like internalizing that feeling, I think, is really powerful.
Yeah.
All right, step number 5, kind of the last step, sort of quasi the last step.
Quasi.
Build accountability. This is so important. So, goals thrive with support and they thrive with accountability. If you have a goal in your mind and you haven't written it down, definitely not as powerful. If you have a goal and you've written it down, but you haven't shared it with someone, also not as powerful. The most powerful and the most likely you are to achieve your goals is if you, one, clearly identify them and write them down, and two, share them with somebody so you can have accountability. This could be a friend, it could be a mentor, it could be a community group that you're part of. You can use tools like journals or apps to track your progress, but this accountability really turns your intention into action. And I cannot stress enough the importance of accountability. When it's January 1st and we're all super excited and motivated, it's a new calendar year, the motivation is really high. But by January 15th, by February 1st, by March, it's kind of like that newness of the year has faded. And this is really where the systems and structures and accountability can help you continue to progress on your goals.
Yeah, very, very important. And groups, friend groups, professional groups can be really important to encouraging you, right? Not just even holding you accountable, but encouraging you toward it. So, as Anne just shared in her journey toward the CFP, she was doing that study with someone else, right? They were doing that work together, visualizing it together. Maybe fitness is the goal for the new year. There are so many apps that let you fitness share with friends. If you're an iPhone user, there's Apple Fitness that lets you connect with friends. It can be for accountability, but also for encouragement, which is really important for getting the goal done. Okay. And as always at the Living Richly Pod, we're always going to give you a bonus.
Obviously.
We always give you more than we promised. So we're going to give you a bonus 6 step. And this bonus is to think of a word to describe your theme of the year. And we have done this at the Living Richly Pod before. So this becomes your compass. It keeps you aligned with your vision and goals. For example, your word could be growth if you want to expand professionally, balance if you're seeking harmony between work and life, or courage if you're ready to take bold steps. So you want to write it down, keep it visible, and let it guide your decisions.
Have you thought of your word for the year?
I haven't. I've
Me
got a few
neither.
more days.
I
Yeah, I've
know.
got a few
We
more
do.
days. I started thinking about it though, because I'm like, we always usually announce it on the pod. So I
Yeah,
got to figure out what this word is going to be.
I know.
And I'm not sure yet.
Me neither.
Yeah. How did you do with your word this year?
I think I did okay. I think I did
Right.
okay.
Remind our viewers and listeners.
Essential. Essential was my
Yeah.
word. Yeah. And I think I definitely improved.
Mm-hmm.
I'm never like you, I'm a bit of a perfectionist and I'm never going to like give
Mm-hmm.
myself an A. There's always room for improvement, but yeah, I think I did okay. How about you?
Yeah. I would agree with that. I mean, I know specific examples of things that you've outsourced this year so that you
Yep.
could focus on what's essential, right? You outsourced the non-essential things. So I think you did a pretty good job with your word.
Thank you.
Of course.
How
Yeah.
about
So
you?
I don't know. I don't think I did a great job. I think I was doing a really good job until like Q4. And then it all
Hmm. So
then it all went off the rails.
remind everybody what your word was.
Yeah. So word was pace. And so the idea was that I gave myself the space to complete things, to mark the list, to not always feel like I was juggling every day. And I think I did a better job this year, keeping that word in mind, creating time blocks, right? Designating space for when I want to get things done. And then I think what happens is I start to get that feeling of being overwhelmed again. And then all the pacing just goes out the window. It's just like, okay, all things all at once. So there's room for improvement with the pacing, but I do think I took a step this year in trying to build out a better pace of life and work and all the things.
Yeah, I agree. I think you implemented some like habits, which
Yeah.
even though it ebbs and flows, and of course, like the last
Mhm.
quarter for us is always a mad rush and always like insanely busy. So it's hard to have any sort of good pace in the
Yeah.
fourth quarter. But I think that you really established like habits that you're going to be able to use moving forward. So even if you go
Yeah.
through like temporary periods of time where the pace is
Right.
not there, it's like you can always go fall back on those habits that you've established. So I think you've done a
Yeah.
great job.
Well, I appreciate that. Always room for improvement, when you're
Always.
star students like we are.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. So I think, we'll spend the next couple of days thinking
Hmm.
about what our words are. I have some ideas. It's just kind of like, thematically, but it's like figuring out one word or a couple of words to really describe what I'm trying to focus on. So we'll have, by our next recording, we will share our words with y'all. So you'll know what they are for next year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll come up with something. We'll come up with something good. Again, I have some in mind, right? Some that are rolling around, but I want to be intentional with my theme word for the year
Yeah.
and something that I could really hold myself accountable to upholding. So we'll get there.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Always do. It always it always works out. It's part of a process. And when you know, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, my dear. What do we have for a closing thought today?
Yeah. So I read a quote in an article that I was reading where the blogger said, as you get older, the days are long, but the years feel short, right? And it made me think, because of course we're at the year-end reflection time, thinking back of 2025, and I realized that I feel that way a lot. Like days feel really long, but then you look back and you're like, where did the year go? But the point that she was sharing in the article was about making sure that you're creating a space where you can make long-term memories. That's why years feel shorter, because we get so focused on short term, right? What's happening right now. I think it's got a lot to do with social media and just our limited attention span at this point, right? We want information quick and fast, but it's really important, especially as you get older, to remember to hold on to the long term memories. So, one of the things that made me think about is that I really want to go back as I'm reflecting on this year and think about all those really good things that happened earlier in the year, right? Like I went to Paris in January. That felt like 3 years ago at this point. I'm like, "Wait, that was still in 2025." So, going back, reflecting on all those really good positive moments, making sure you're holding on to them, keeping them with you so that you don't get just so stuck in what just happened, right, in the last hour, and you remember that even though the days feel long, the years are not as short as sometimes we think they are.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. Was it Gretchen Rubin by chance?
No, I can't remember. It wasn't Gretchen, but I
Okay.
can't remember her name, but
Yeah.
yeah.
I think she may have been the first person to talk about it like that,
Mhm.
where the days are long and the years are short.
Long and the
But
years are
yeah,
short, yeah.
yeah, that's great. One of the things I do every year, which is a super fun exercise, is I have a notebook or I have a note in my Evernote that's called yearly highlights, and I break it down
Mhm.
between the year and I go back to, for the full calendar year. And it mostly ends up being, like you said, trips and experiences
Yeah.
or, concerts or things like that, events that I had with loved ones or, great friends. But I love looking back on the years and seeing like what my highlights were for
Mhm.
previous years. So
Yeah.
that's something that I highly recommend. It's always really fun to look back and just reflect on the year and think about the things. And what I always try to do is go off memory first. So I
Mhm.
like try to remember the things that happened, but then I always go back to my calendar and I'm like, oh yeah, I did this or I did that or that happened.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
fun
or
exercise.
even the photo album, right? iPhone will,
Yes.
sort it by the year for you, and you go back, you remember all those small moments, like, "Oh, yeah, I remember we tried that restaurant, it was fantastic, because I took
Hmm.
a picture of the dish," and
Yep.
so it's just really nice to reflect on the years, that happen and not just what we're dealing with in the day.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. So
Right, what's on your mind?
my
Right?
closing thought is related to the process of goal setting. So I was talking to my kids this morning. We were talking about actually this podcast episode, and my 13-year-old goalie was like, I don't really believe in goal setting because a lot of people set goals and they don't end up accomplishing them. And we had a really good productive conversation about the fact that yes, none of us have a crystal ball, right? And just because you set a goal does not mean it's necessarily going to work out. But what I think goals are really good at doing is giving you a roadmap for making decisions throughout the year, right? So is the thing that I'm about to do in line with something with one of my goals or the way that I want to show up in life? So while I don't think that everybody necessarily, obviously reaches all their goals, and you've seen all the statistics about New Year's resolutions, you and I don't really believe in New Year's resolutions because most people don't keep them. But I do think that when you set goals, it helps you establish the habits that you need to establish to be more likely to achieve your goals. And I also think it gives you a framework for making decisions. So we had a really good, productive conversation about the fact that, yeah, most people don't end up doing the things that they need, but I think it's because they set the goal, like, I want to lose weight, which is not a smart goal. We've already talked about that, right? And it's like, okay, you want to lose weight. Well, how many pounds do you want to lose? Or how much percent body fat do you want to lose? And then, like, what are the things that you're going to do to get to that goal? So anyway, if you're somebody like Goalie who's like, I don't know. I don't know about this goal setting thing. You probably aren't listening to this episode for starters. But if you are, think about it that way. Like, what are the habits you want to establish, and use the goals as more of like a roadmap and a vision for how you want to show up in life. And be flexible, right? Because life happens. We all know that. We've all been through unexpected situations in our lives that were not on our bingo cards. But, you have to pivot and tweak as we go, and that's okay.
Yeah. And again, I think it's also about behavior, right? The actual habit. You want to save money. Well, does buying, $300 worth of fill in the blank help you achieve that goal? Maybe I should rethink it. Some people will still buy it anyway, but at least it'll give you a moment to stop and pause. I want to lose weight. Maybe I shouldn't have this cupcake. I may still eat it, but I at least thought about the fact that this cupcake is not going to help me toward that goal at all whatsoever. So,
right. Yeah. Gives you that pause. I love that.
Yeah. We'll get Goldie to come around. He'll be a goal
we'll get him
setter.
on board. We'll get him on board. I reminded him he has a goal next year to make one of the higher travel teams. So we talked about that. I was like, you have a goal, you have a goal to make the top 1 or 2 teams. And so what do you need to do? Like, what are the things you need to do to put you on track to achieve that goal? So we talked about that.
Fantastic.
I think he bought in a little bit more.
Okay, good.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for spending time with us. We really appreciate it. We love being here with you, and we wish you very happy holidays, very happy New Year. We will see you back here in 2026. Can't believe it.
Yeah.
And until then,
live richly.
Thanks again for tuning in. If you enjoyed today's episode, please be sure to subscribe and share it with someone who might benefit from it. Friendly reminder that this is for informational purposes only. For additional information, please visit us at www.curoprivatewealth.com. Until next time, live richly.